Today I'm going to show you how you can set up dynamic ranges that'll automatically adjust as you add to them without having to rely on tables. So if you've got a drop-down list and you add items to a range, the drop-down list can automatically update so that it's got your latest additions. So in front of me I've downloaded the top selling video games ever. This is from Wikipedia. And so here I've got a list of the top 40, and I want to add these remaining 10 to this list. So if I want to create a drop-down list and just be able to select these different titles, what I could do is just go under data validation, and create a list. And say, okay, I want to select any one of those entries. All right, so I'll highlight my drop down so it's easy to see what I've got here. So now I can select any one of these, and then I can use these for a lookup or whatever. But the point is, it'll go all the way to the bottom. Sonic the Hedgehog at the number 40 spot there. But now let's say I want to add number 41 or 42 to the list. So I'll cut and paste into here, and now I've added them into here. The problem is still at Sonic the Hedgehog. So it doesn't automatically update. Now if this was in a table, then it works a bit differently and it would update, but for one reason or another you may not want to use a table. And so I'll show you here how we can set up a dynamic range so that it'll automatically update. And the key to making that work is the offset function. So what I can go do is under the formula section, go under name manager, because I'm going to create a named range. And this is going to be a bit more complicated than just selecting a range of cells, because what I'm going to want to do here is set up a formula. Okay, so I'm going to call this, let's say, top games. And so what I'm going to do is use the offset function here to say offset. And the first argument in the offset function is the cell that you're starting from. So in this case, it's going to be Minecraft, because I'm going to start from there. I don't want to start from this cell. I could, but then I would still need to offset this by one row. And so I don't need to do that. I can just select that cell that I want to start from right off the bat. The next two arguments relate to any rows and columns you want to offset. In this case, I'm just setting those to 0. And the reason being is because I'm good with starting from this position and then expanding onwards. Now, the next item after that is in the offset function, you've got an argument for how large it should be in terms of height and width. Okay, and so for the height argument, I'm going to use the count A function. And this is basically just going to count the number of cells that have values in them. So I can select all of column B here, but what I'm going to do is enter a -1 after that, because I don't want to include this header, the title. Okay, so now the count A function is good, -1. And then for the width of it, which is the last argument in the offset function, I'm going to use the number 1, because it's only one column wide. I don't need to do anything in there. If I hit OK, now you'll see my formulas in there. So offset, starting at B2, 0 rows to offset, 0 columns to offset, and the count for the height of it is using that count A function. And now if I click on here, you'll see what it's selecting. So it's all the way down to number 42, because that is the last one that it's counting a value at. So if I close this, and now if I go under my data validation, which I just need to update here, so now I'm going to use that named range and say top games. And now I've got my list, which goes now to Mario Kart DS. So now you can see it's automatically updating that. And to prove it out, I can show you the count A function. All it does is it's really just counting this list. So 43, there's 43 items because every row has something in there. So that's where minusing 1 for that header allows me to get the correct range. So now if I were to add these remaining games here, Control X, Control V. Now it should be New Super Mario Brothers being the last entry in my drop-down list. So I click into here. We have New Super Mario Bros. So it's automatically updated. So I don't have to go through and create a table. I don't have to do anything beyond just setting up that formula. And if I go back to show you again, in the name manager, now that range automatically has expanded because it's doing that count A calculation in there. So that avoids you having to worry about, constantly changing the range anytime you add cells. And this can be useful, if you don't have a table, but you just have a list of items that you always want to update. Using the offset function gives you that flexibility to be able to automatically update without having to worry about, manually making any changes. So that's a quick overview of how to set up dynamic ranges in Excel. And I'll leave a link to one of the posts I made relating to this if you want to follow along on one of my articles. But other than that, hope you found this useful, and thank you for watching.